Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, follow, comment, share, and also follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, how to hack your development. Today's guest has a mission in life, and that to talk to people about what inspires them and get them to follow their dreams. To do this, he hosts a podcast called Personal Development Hacks. Here he talks to his guests about what their dreams are, and he discusses their mindset and how to focus on achieving their goals rather than just setting them. Let's welcome to the show today, Todd Baker. Welcome. I'd say welcome back, and that is the truth. But
that is true. But we're both here right now, so glad to be here. Thank you for having me on.
You are very, very welcome. So let's jump into this. How do we hack our development, and how did you start this?
So this started basically on my journey. This was about 7-8 years ago. I would, like most people, I woke up on January 1st, looked in the mirror, thought, I don't like that. Decided I need to lose weight. My resolution that year lasted all of 3 days because day 4, I live in Denver. It was snowing, cold. I didn't go for a walk. And instead of just kind of throwing my hands up, like I started thinking about why it was so easy to give up and why I let something like, a little bit of cold and some snow like stop me from something that was important to me. And I started asking myself why, and I kept digging and digging and digging. And what it boiled down to was my motivation was fleeting that day because of the snowflakes in the air, but my true inspiration and that fire that drove me and why it was truly important is my kids. They're 18 and 16 now. They were, 11 and 9 or something like that back then. And I didn't want to be the dad that couldn't participate in stuff with them. I didn't want to be the dad that, they would come to me and say, hey, we want to go camping. And I'd give them money for whatever and be like, yeah, you guys will go have fun, because I couldn't do it. I wanted to be the dad that was like, when they came to me and said, hey, let's go camping, I would be like, okay, let's get in the truck, let's go. And so that really, it became my true inspiration. And I talked to both of my kids about what I was doing, why I was doing it, why it was important to me, and especially their involvement in it. And from there, it's grown into what it is now, which is, I'm not the only one that went through this or goes through this or anything. So it's really about helping other people get out of motivation, get out of short-term, short-time type of goals, and really start thinking about your lifetime and what inspires you. And it can be an emotional process, because you're going to start asking yourself why things are important. And like every 5th grade elementary teacher tells you, you got to ask why 7 times before you get to the right answer. And so it's going to require some digging and some figuring out like what is actually at the core of why it was so easy for me to say what the goal was, but this is why it's actually important to me, because while motivation is fleeting and it can lack on certain days, your inspiration, that core driver, it never leaves. And
Yeah.
so those days where it's snowing, and my perfect example was 3 weeks after I started, I was downstairs cooking breakfast. My daughter comes down. It's snowing again. And she looks outside. She looks at me and she goes, "Dad, are you going to go on your walk today?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to see what the weather does, but yeah, I'll go today." And without even hesitating, she just looked me dead in the eye and goes, "You mean now?" And I was like, "I do. Yep." And ate some eggs real quick and put my stuff on and got out the door. So it that to me told me that not only was it important to me that I was living a new life and creating a new version of myself, but it was important to them that I'd be there to be able to participate with them and join them in all of the stuff that they got going on. So
Yeah. It's always good to have the help of children, because they can see the truth in everything.
Yeah, there's no filter. It's just, you say, yes, I will, and they think, well, now is as good a time as any. And hey, that day I scarfed down some eggs and dressed up and walked out the door and got home, and she's like, "Okay, Dad, let's go to school." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's going to take a little bit longer. I got to drive through the snow now, which is different than walking through the snow." But
yeah. Yeah. Now there's a term that's been heavily used a lot lately in just about everything, in politics, in business, in everything. And it's sustainability. We have these goals, and we want to set these long term. We want to look at the long term, but then we get hit with the sustainability. Is that something that we should worry about, or just go with it?
Every human on Earth has basically two superpowers that most people aren't aware of, and they're very simple. It's consistency and dedication. And the most successful people in the world, that's what they have, is they're consistent in their efforts, what they're doing, what they're driving for, and they're dedicated to their art, their craft, whatever it is. And people, as I talk about this, like, one of the differences is, they'll say, well, when you set a goal, it should be a SMART goal, right? It should, with whatever that stands for and stuff. And I'm like, no, it shouldn't. I want your goal to do two things. It should last you for your lifetime, and it should have a profound positive effect on your life. And the steps that you're going to take. So just dream whatever that ultimate goal is. It could take you 20 years to get there. That's fine. But that's your ultimate goal. The how, the steps in the process that you're taking along the way until you get to that, those can be your smaller, your more incremental, this will get done in the next 6 months. This will get done the next year. So that's where you can do the smaller goals, but they're all leading to your bigger lifetime, whatever goal it is. The classic example is someone, comes to within my course and they're like, well, I want to lose 15 pounds. I'm like, well, here's the thing. You either change your mindset to a lifetime, or let's just write your resolution for next year. And instead of losing 15 pounds, just write down 25, because that's what's going to happen. So instead of looking at it as, I want to lose 15 pounds, look at it as, I want to get and stay fit, because the weight loss comes with it. But if your dedication is, every day I'm making progress towards getting more fit, and a million people have a million different ideas of what that actually means to them. Your goals are personal. They're personal to you. They're personal to me, and they're supposed to be that way, right? But whatever that is, as long as you're making daily progress because you're focused on the next 20, 30 years of your life, or 40 or more, or whatever it is, that becomes your sustainability, because that goal is always out in front of you. Whereas, like, let's say you are successful with the resolution, you do lose 15 pounds. My next question is, okay, what's next? Like, is it to keep it off? Is it to lose more? Or is it like, what goes from there? Or, because most people, they'll set a resolution for something like that, they'll lose it, they'll celebrate, and then they'll spend the rest of the year gaining it back.
Yeah.
Because it was a short-term goal.
Yep. And that's where the sustainability comes in. They didn't sustain what
Right.
they're, after the goal was met, it's like, okay, now let's sustain that goal. Let's keep it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's where, instead of the losing weight, you look at it as a get and stay fit, because it's just a different way of phrasing basically the same thing. But every day of your life, you can focus on getting fit. Not every day of your life can you focus on losing 15 pounds. I mean, if you did, we'd all be ants at this point, just crawling around. So.
Yeah. Now, it seems like, especially the New Year's resolutions, so many people make them. So, and a lot of them are, I've heard a lot, and some of them are a little bit unrealistic, and some are really massive. Quit smoking, and go back to school, get a degree. And a lot of people out there just don't. What has been the most, with your experience and from others' experience from some of your clients, what has been that main factor of them not maintaining that and just quitting?
So I read like 3 of Stephen Pressfield's book, and he talks about his stances as from a writer, but the lesson goes for everyone. As soon as you start a new something, be it quitting smoking, or be it, whatever that goal is, when you start it, that's your first adversary, and consistent adversary is always resistance. And, it's society telling you that, you don't want to do this, or, it's peer pressure and they're trying to drag you down. Or, you just look at it, you're like, well, life got in the way. And my response to that always is, you probably didn't do a good enough job drilling down to your why. Because if you found your true why, because people will say, I want to quit smoking, but I think like smoking is kind of a symptom, but it's not the root cause. And if you drill down to it, like, why is it important that you quit smoking? And okay, well, I don't want to be the only one that goes outside. Okay, why is that important to you? And you start getting into it, and all of a sudden, like, your why doesn't necessarily have to align perfectly with what your goal is, but it could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be, I don't want to live like, my dad smoked until he was X years old, and I don't want that life, whatever it is. But anytime that you're faced with that kind of that obstacle, that you're like, I can either quit or I can find a way around this. It's not a different. The choice isn't between hard and easy. Hard being keep going, and easy being just to revert. The choice is actually between hard and hard. It's hard to keep going, and it's probably, I would argue, actually harder still for you to give up, because not only do you now give up, now it's going to get worse, because now you're faced with the fact that you had been making progress, and now you're back to where you started, and all that stuff that you did was for naught, and now it starts to downward spiral. So it's probably the program that I offer is very simple, but it's not easy, right? Like, you gotta you're going to do work anytime you're going to go for a goal. But the why is probably the most difficult one, because where the why is born kind of in your brain, it doesn't translate well into words. So you have to really think about like asking yourself that question and coming up with the right reasons. And it, like I said, it can be an emotional journey, because you're probably going to start thinking about family, friends, history of this, or, a tragic event or something that is wanting you to change the trajectory of your life. So anytime you face that, it's, if you do quit, it's because you hadn't found your true inspiration yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I notice too, when it comes to bad habits, especially smoking, I'm an ex-smoker, and I would replace them with good habits, and it worked. And yes,
Yeah.
it did take some intervention, quite a bit of intervention, medicinal intervention, and holistic medicinal. So
yes,
and I think I touched about that on the show, but now that also begs the question, and also segues into the journey. It is a journey, and I think people also, one of the factors of quitting a particular goal or just dropping out is they don't enjoy the journey, or they don't see the journey as a blessing.
Right. Yeah.
So,
No, you're absolutely right. And I won't sugarcoat it. Like anytime you're starting something new that is really going to, like I said, change the trajectory of your life, it's not going to be fun, probably for a good couple months, because it's new, it's challenging. Your body, your mind, your soul is getting used to this creation of what is going to be the new you. Now, what I will tell you, and the coolest moments that I have with like my clients that I have group coaching sessions, is it's usually about like week 5 of an 8-week course, and between about 5 and 6, there'll be week 4 or 5, they'll be engaged, and they'll be, they're making progress, and they're doing what they said they would do, and they're doing it, but it's still what they're doing, right? Like they have to think about it, and they have to incorporate it, and they're still getting used to it, but it's still in their mind, this is what I'm doing. And then usually about week 5 or 6, it changes, and it goes from what they're doing to who they are. And they've created this new version of themselves. Yeah. And the enlightenment that I see when they get on a call, like you can just tell immediately. I had a individual on 3 weeks ago, and it happened for her, like in week 6, I think it was. And I asked her, her name was Leslie. I was like, Leslie, who are you right now? And she's like, I felt it. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is who I am now. And her energy was up, and her confidence was up, and, her head was up, and she was looking for stuff, because your body, it craves progress. It enjoys as you make progress, because just consciously you start feeling better about what you're doing and who you're becoming. And it goes from your conscious to your subconscious, and your body and your mind, they start to adjust, and they start to crave more and more and more of it. And so what you see is like people start making progress like this. And then at that point where that transition happens from what you're doing to who you are, because your body and mind is so craving it, that's when you start to see this happen. And people's lives start to dramatically improve, because they're hungry for it. And it's almost an addiction, if they're getting fit, it's like if you're doing it right, yeah, it's going to take some time to actually see differences and show differences. But as soon as it starts to happen and you start to get that confidence, that's when you see those, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I haven't been that number since this year. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh my God, I haven't been that number since this year. And that's where it really starts to accelerate. And then, because, if you're looking at it, anytime you're really wanting to remodel yourself, it's going to take you a year, right? And you have to be consistent. You have to have the dedication, and you're going to make plenty of progress on the way. But to fully have it there, yeah, it's going to take you probably a year until you're like, this is exactly what and create everything around you. But after you get past that first month or two, then it becomes fun. Then it becomes enjoying that trip. And, like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The beginning, especially, it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. You're going to question yourself all the time. But just think about it. Your only comparison is you from yesterday. So as long as you're better today than you were yesterday, you're making progress, and keep doing it. And then with the how, when you hit certain levels of whatever it is that your goal is, celebrate it. Give yourself, a pat on the back, or, just, for whatever, just celebrate it. Because you're also that's going to keep boosting you up, and your body's going to recognize, oh, well, that was a celebration. I want the next one. I want the next one.
Yeah. And then getting the support from friends and family, because there's some individuals that don't have that. So they have to depend on other. That's
true. I mean, I will say, especially with like business, the worst people you can take advice from is your friends and family, because they're all going to tell you, oh, don't do that. What, are you crazy? Just, take your 40-hour a week job and just, you're doing all right. Just stay the course, but you're going to find, as you start on something, depending on who you're sharing this with, keeping in mind that your goal is personal. So share it to people that are your inspiration. Like for me, it was my kids. And whoever you feel is in that, but just know that you're going to have one of three people that you tell about what you're doing that show up. One is going to be just a pure cheerleader. They're not going to join you in your pursuit, like if it's a health pursuit or something like that. They're not going to join you, but they are going to be 100% supportive, and they'll be, someone that you can rely on, like my daughter, to basically be your kind of, your whip to say, no, you're doing this. Yeah. Second is going to be a cheerleader that joins you. Like, so if it's a health kick, and you start walking, you might find like all of a sudden your spouse or your friends are like, well, if you're doing this, man, I've seen how much better you're doing. I'm going with you. The third, and unfortunately, what is the people that don't like it, and they try to pull you back down to the person that you knew before. And it's tough when they show up, because you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and potentially with them, like with where you want to go and where you're going. They don't have to join you, but you also have to realize that you don't want that element in your life. You don't want someone that's dragging you down. So if it's, if you're looking at, creating alternative income streams or something like that, and they're constantly just bagging on what you got going on, be it, drop shipping or affiliate marketing or something, just for an example, they'll constantly just try to knock it down. And you just have to have that conversation. Like, look, man, I'm not asking you to do anything. We could still be friends and hang out and do all sorts of stuff together. But when it comes to like me and what I'm doing in terms of this is what I'm doing. So if you feel that, you need to badmouth it, I'd appreciate you just keep the thoughts to yourself. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, as you progress, and I think, as adults, we all go through it, your circle changes. It just does naturally. People move, or they have different lives, different goal, different thoughts on stuff, and people will come and go and stuff like that. So just choose your circle wisely, and just know that you're going to have one of those three people in every single person that's in that circle. And you just got to make sure that you're just surrounding yourself with more people supportive and positive than anything else.
Yeah. And maybe finding new friends, finding new colleagues, friends, associates that are already in that circle or have already created that circle, and join them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the old adage, it's if you want to be a millionaire, go hang out with millionaires.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way, because, I've always found, like, when you hang around with people that have achieved certain levels of success, those are the first people that will share everything with you. They will open their playbook and go, here, this is how I did it. Take it for what you will. Here's the mistakes that I made. Here's the successes that I had. Here's the steps that I followed. Here. And they'll share it all with you. Because that's part of what makes them successful, is having a strong circle of like-minded thinkers.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad always told me we become the company we keep.
Yeah.
Be careful who you hang out with, because you are the company you keep, or you're associated with it. So.
Yeah, it's what you're the average of the 5 closest friends that you hang out with, and you take a look, and it's like, I mean, fortunate or unfortunate, but most people, they look around and they're like, wow, you 5, like, this is who I'm hanging out with, and this is what I want in life, and they're drastically different.
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, there's plenty of people that grow up in horrible situations, but they made different choices to get them. They saw their friends go in bad paths. They knew that they didn't want that, and they chose differently, and they made a tough choice to either move or to do something to improve their life, knowing that that circle that they grew up with or associated with most was not going to go with them or cheerlead or anything. They were going to be like, "No, man, this is what we do."
Yeah. Yeah. That always reminds me of that scene in The Matrix when Trinity looks at Neo and he opens up the door, and she's like, "You've been down that road before. You know where it goes. And I know you don't want to go down there."
No, it's true. It's weird, but like, I honestly think in the history of the world, pretty much, no one has ever failed at anything. They've just had some massive learning opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Edison, they asked him all the time, like, why did you failed so many times to make a light bulb? What kept you pushing till you finally got it? And he looked and he said, I didn't fail once. I just figured out 1,000 different ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
And it's true. He didn't look at it as failures. He looked at it as learning opportunities, like, okay, this didn't work. Don't do this again. Or this kind of worked, so tweak this. And it's a great way to look at it, because we learn and we grow when we're uncomfortable, not when we're comfortable.
True.
And they always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So it's going to be a part of life. So the more comfortable you get with, like, uncomfortable situations or striving out to do something new, the better you get at it, because you're comfortable. You look at it and you're like, I've been here before. Like you said,
Yeah.
you've been down that road before, but that's okay, because you're comfortable. Not saying that you know where it leads, but you just have to put yourself in those situations and just know that they're going to be there.
Yeah. Now, with the you don't have to give out any details, but what has been the 3 biggest hacks that you helped your clients with?
Let's see. Well, Leslie, because she she stands out because her whole thing was on like the relationship with her husband, and she had a boy and a girl, and she worked, and her husband worked as well, but her hours were a little bit different. Like she was a nurse or something, and so it was a little bit different. And she was starting to feel just disconnected relationship wise from her husband, who she loved dearly, from her kids, who obviously she loved, and but she noticed that like her conversations weren't as long, they weren't as deep, um, and when she got it, I mean, like her husband came on, and he's like, I don't know what you did, but you got my wife back,
Uh,
you know, and I was just like, good. And you know, and he was talking about how, you know, now they have like a family dinner at least 3 times a week, and the kids have to share like how they feel about stuff. And she's like, I've learned more about my kids in the last month than I had in the prior 2 years or whatever. Another was a gentleman, Mark, who this was like after COVID, and I talked about how like I spent COVID walking, so I was staying in shape, and I was, you know, wasn't just staying at home and eating. And he's like, yeah, well, COVID treated me the other way. You know, he had gained weight and stuff like that. And his true why for getting back in shape was he has 3 sons. He coached them in baseball when they were growing up. And lo and behold, he had his first grandchild about 2 months away from being born, and it was a boy. And he's like, I want to do this because I want to coach my grandson the same way that I coached my sons. And so I think his grandson is like, I want to say like 2 now. So he's got a little bit until he starts playing, you know, in the major leagues for the Rockies. Although it's the Rockies, he could probably play for them now. They're so bad, um, but you know, he's kept on it because he knows why he's doing it each and every single day.
yeah.
Um, and then the last is a gentleman that he he knew that his whole thing was like he wanted to grow his wealth. So there's a difference between wealth and money, right? Like, I mean, one obviously leads to the other, but there is a true difference between growing your wealth and just making more money.
Yeah.
So we talked about that for a little while, and he kind of understood it. And you know, he was looking at all sorts of stuff, but the thing was is he had a family. So he's like, I can't quit my job because I got great benefits, you know, my schedule is good, I love what I do. He's like, but I'm topping out. And so we had just talked about like him going out and researching things that wouldn't take away from his work schedule, wouldn't take away from his family schedule, but things that he could do to just create alternative income streams. And he ended up doing, I can't even remember what it was. It was some kind of affiliate marketing or something like that. Because you know, he had a fairly large following.
Yeah.
Um, and towards the end, he's like, Todd, he's like, I'm almost at the point to where my affiliate income within 6 months is going to be the same as what I'm making from my job. And I was like, okay, second question, you're making money with your side gig, basically. What are you doing with it? And that's where he really started to light up because he's like, well, now I'm looking into, you know, groups that invest in apartment buildings and stuff like that, so I can create true passive income. I just give them money, they give it to me. I don't do anything with the properties. I don't do anything at all. It's just true passive income. So he went from someone who was, you know, trying to find a way to grow his wealth and he didn't know what was out there, to a few discussions, and now he's looking at like multiple options that are going to grow his, obviously his income, and by therefore then his wealth even more. And his true why is he came from, just an average American, kid growing up. You had your week vacation in the summer and you drove up camping and whatever. But he does remember distinctly, like, being on budgets and having some hard times and stuff like that. And he's like, I don't want that for my kids. I want to give them every opportunity. And the only way I know how to do that is, one, obviously to support them in whatever their dreams are, but two, to be able to expose them to all this stuff and create these memories so that they have more to choose from. So those are probably the three that stand out the most. It was kind of one in each of the three categories: health, wealth, and relationships.
Yeah.
But they made true progress because they all, to a T, all three of them, they knew their why. And it burned in them and they just stuck to it. And that's, the sustainability, that's where that came in, because they knew that why. And so it wasn't a question about sustainability, because they were doing it for a different reason than just words on the top of a piece of paper.
Yeah. Being passionate about it. And like you said, being consistent, following through, and the dedication.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it, but when you do for the why, you'll find that the going through kind of the rest of the process of like actually setting your goals and going through there's only 5 steps in the program. But going through those, once you discover that why, they all kind of fill themselves in, because you know exactly what you're doing, everything.
Yeah. Now, how can people find you? You're on Facebook. People can find you on Facebook.
Yep. So Facebook, it's just me. It's just Todd Baker. You can also, my company is called Project 9 Life. The 9 is a number. I've got a Facebook page that's there. It's also on Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel where you can see all the podcasts that I've done, both current and everything in the past. And then you can either get a hold of me through any of those, or the easiest way is just to email me. It's just info@project9life.com.
And we will have all that information in the description of this video for anybody who wants to see it. Briefly describe your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Personal Development Hacks, and we talk about helping people. The main theme is getting people off of the autopilot in life, doing things that inspire them the most, and living their best life. And I have guests on basically every single show, and to a T, everyone that's on there's different modalities. Some are health, some are wealth, some are different things, but it's all about just helping other people improve their lives. And it's just because it's different mindsets, it's different things. Like, my whole program is built on my journey. So I'm not sharing anything as like a fact, or you got to do X, Y, and Z, and if you don't, you're not going to get there. I'm just going to share with you like what worked for me.
Yeah.
And if there's pieces in there that you can take and actually take action on, then I've been successful, because I don't have that kind of ego where I'm like, I got 100 people on here and all 100 of you need to write down every word that I say and get it all right now. But it's just, if there's 100 people, my goal is like one thing that I say, one thing that I tell you that it resonates with you and promotes you to take action on. That's all I want, is just one thing. Because if you take something out of it, it's like anything else. You could go to an all-day seminar. You're not going to remember the whole seminar. But if you could take one thing out of it that prompts you to take action, and then you take action, because that's the most important part, is it's great if you say that was pretty good and then you do nothing about it, you're in the same place that you were.
Yeah.
So that if you take action on it, now you're starting to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and I mean, right now there's a lot of people. I mean, I hear it everywhere I go. It's like, oh man, my life is, going in a direction they don't want it to. And I asked them, I was like, well, have you, it's one, we have to recognize the issue, recognize the problem. A lot of people are not really identifying it. Okay, they don't like their job. All right, what part of it don't you like? Because if you don't have an alternative at that moment, you got to find something about the job that you do enjoy, like at least being grateful that you even have a job first.
Right. Right. Yeah. So let's start with the smallest battle first. Hey, the paycheck doesn't bounce. Okay, let's go from there.
Yeah. So.
No, but you're right. It's and some of the clients I've worked with, they've had very successful careers. They've got good positions, they make good money, they got responsibilities, they've got people under them, all this stuff. And society looks at them and says, "You're doing really good for yourself. You look at all the stuff that you're doing and everything like that." But in that quiet moment, when they are alone, and you ask them, "Are you happy?" Oh, there's a lot of times where they say no. They're like, "I do this because I'm responsible for my family, for my kids, for everything else, but I'm not passionate about what I'm doing. I'm not creating memories because of X, Y, and Z reasons or whatever, or I'm unhealthy because I'm spending so much time getting this stuff done."
Yeah.
And that's the autopilot that I talk about. It's like they get into it and they start making progress in the beginning, and then they are happy at the end, but then all of a sudden it's 10 years later or 15 years later, and they're stuck. They feel stuck. Like, I have to do it, but I'm not happy with everything.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to sit there and be like, "Well, you need to quit your job and let's start there." But you've got other goals in life besides just what you do and what you make. There's other things in your life that probably you could, if I ask you what your goal is, that it's not going to be with, "I need to make a little bit more or have a different position." It's going to be health, or it's going to be, relationships, or, creating memories with kids or something like that. And that's where they focus.
Yeah. Like the ultimate goal in life is to be happy.
Yeah.
And, if someone's not happy, then find out what does make you happy and look at trying to build on that.
Yeah.
Create a business out of it. You got to think outside the box.
Yeah. Well,
creative.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, especially with the day and age that we live in with technology. I'm 47. Like, my kids know more about computers than I do. Like, if I have a tech problem, I'm like, "Hey guys, can you fix this? Because I don't, what am I hitting here?"
Yeah.
One podcast, all of a sudden in the middle, I was sideways, and I'm like, "I don't know where this button is."
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So we re-recorded that one. But with all of that technology at your fingertips, if you've got like a half hour a day or an hour a day that's free, that you can just spend time learning a different skill or a different something that can generate some income for you. In the beginning, yeah, it might be $50, $100, $200 a month, but it's extra.
Mm-hmm.
And the better you get at it, what you'll find is that your work hours go down, but the income continues to rise. And that's where you start to see some of those true benefits. The same thing with anything else. There's there's always time in the day to go for a walk or to, work out in the morning before you take your shower. You don't need to go to the gym. You can do a home workout. Or relationships, if your schedule says you can't have dinner with the kids, well, great, then have breakfast with them.
Yeah.
Kids don't care what meal it is. They're eating eggs the whole time anyway.
Yeah. Yep. Man. Yep. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our show today. And
Excellent.
contact information and some specials down in the video description of your program. Okay. And let's see. Yeah, they can find you. Yeah, we'll have all that in there. I was looking for stuff on Facebook, and I was like, wait, some stuff is easy to copy paste, like some URLs, but if the URLs have all this weird tag stuff on it, and it's like, okay, I'll just create a hyperlink.
Better you did than I, because that would have taken me about 3 days.
Yeah, it takes a getting used to, definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely. For sure. But no, but man, Paul, thank you so much for having me on in this opportunity just to, talk to your audience. And, hopefully, like I said, if you took one thing out of it, then it's been a great success as far as I'm concerned. And just remember, most important part, whatever you take out of it, take action on it. And I'm not saying next week, like tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Immediately, while it's fresh in your mind too, because sometimes I'll take mental notes, but now it's like, as we get older, we got to write shit down, it's like, or you forget about it, and make notes.
Because if it resonated, then it means something to you, mm-hmm. that you remembered it. So don't let it just float away. Like, put it in your planner and just be like, this is what I'm doing starting tomorrow. And tomorrow's day one of, what I'm going to set out to do. Any activity is good activity.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Todd, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for joining us, my friend. Good luck on your podcast, and keep us updated on any additions to your program. Anything new coming down the road, a book, anything.
Yes. Yeah. The book is in the process of going from here to here. But it's, that's the great thing about kind of what I do for a living is it always changes, because I learn more from my audience that I have on these group sessions than they probably learn from me. It's just, it's so cool, because you get a group of people together and they just start sharing ideas with each other, because they're all on this, they all have different end goals, but they're all following the same path. And so, it's like, I might not be the one to tell you that I tried something, but Bill might, because Bill just went through exactly what you're talking about. And he's going to tell you, this is what I did. Mm-hmm. And, I learned from it too. I mean, like you said, I have my notebook out. I'm just, half the time I'm just frivolously putting somewhat coherent notes in the notebook, so that I can incorporate them as well.
Yeah. Keywords. Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right, man.
Well, brother, you have a good one, my friend.
Thank
take
you, man.
care.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yep.
You're
Thanks,
very welcome.
Guys. Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching Conscious Radio Network. And until next time, we will see you next week.